everybody, welcome back to another video. This is Kim and I'm really glad you're here. Today's information might be a little bit controversial. I'm coming at it from one angle pretty much, but there's an opposition to this opinion. Anyways, before we get started, I just want to invite you to please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like the video if you find it useful. This topic was spurred today at work because I'm running into this issue where inkjet printers in our office are starting to fail. We recently started using compatible ink instead of name brand ink, and I decided to look into if that's the reason why they're dying. I don't know. So anyways, here's the information that I found. I'm going to share it with you and you can let me know if you agree with me or disagree. This is not my area of expertise. I just, yeah. Anyways, let's move on. Can using compatible ink cartridges ruin your printer? Okay, so first of all, let's go over what's the difference. So a name brand cartridge is made by the manufacturer specifically for that printer. They've designed the entire cartridge to work perfectly in that printer. There's science behind it. They have made the ink a precise way, a precise thickness, and etc. And the nozzles are an exact size so that the ink comes out perfectly as intended onto the paper. The manufacturer will stand by the cartridge and any issues that a faulty one may cause. I know this for sure because I did have a bad ink cartridge that basically, this was a Canon printer, and the authentic Canon Inkjet little cartridge, it kind of broke on the bottom. Anyways, all the ink poured everywhere within the printer, and I contacted Canon and they sent me an entirely new printer. I sent the old one back to them because there's no way I was going to be able to clean it all up. It was all inside of everywhere. Now that was just my one Canon experience. I don't know that other manufacturers will go to the same extent, but I did read that they said that if you're using the name brand cartridges and something happens, they will stand behind it. So I hope that that's true. Name brand cartridges cost a lot more than the generic brands. I mean, a lot more. But is it worth it? I don't know. So here's the compatible cartridges. They're made by a different manufacturer with no affiliation whatsoever to the original printer manufacturer. These are companies that all they do is make the compatible generic cartridges. They are much cheaper than name brand. I don't know the exact price, but like $8 for one of these versus like $40 maybe for a name brand. I mean, it's a big difference like that. So those are not exact pricing. I'm just giving you an example. The compatible cartridges are usually recycled or refilled. Their ink is generic ink. It's not authentic Canon, HP, Epson, etc. ink. So there's more differences, but that kind of gives you an idea. So in order to understand why a compatible ink cartridge may not be the best choice, I kind of wanted to explain how an inkjet printer works. The inkjet has three main variables: the ink. There has sediments, viscosity, and heat capacity. Now, I didn't just know this. I looked it up. I did a bunch of research today to prepare for this video, and it was interesting. So anyways, these three things are part of the ink. Inkjet printers basically have thousands of little tubes with heating elements in them. So the heating elements are not in the tubes, but I guess it's the heating element heats up the tubes and boils out a tiny drop of ink and onto the paper. Each time an electrical pulse is sent to the heating element. So the heating element is what kind of controls the print, the ink coming out and going onto the paper. Ink is engineered for a specific amount of heat and a specific orifice size of this tube. So when you're thinking about a name brand ink cartridge, it takes all this into account. It knows which printer this cartridge is being made for, and the heat capacity and the viscosity of the ink and any other components that are part of the ink that it needs to take into account when it's creating these I can't remember what the tubes were called, these little tubes. So color accuracy is also built into the printer software and the drivers. So when they create the drivers for the printer, the software for the printer that tells the printer, you know, how to print basically. Sorry, that's my dog making noise. They base this all on using the OEM, which is original equipment ink. This software, the driver, tells the printer how much of each color to use to produce the end product. So if this is not actual ink that they've designed to work with the printer, it's close maybe, but not exact. The color may not be what you expect. It may be a little bit more orange instead of red, or, you know, whatever. Because the compatible inks aren't exactly the same as the OEM inks, so it won't be exactly the same. So the drivers are designed to work with the OEM ink, not the compatible ink. So I don't know if this made any sense to you, but hopefully it did. Because when they're creating this printer, they create the cartridge to work optimally inside of that printer. And the compatibles are made for a large group of printers, not for yours specifically. I'm going to use Canon, for example. So if they make a Canon compatible ink cartridge, that same cartridge, the same ink, maybe a different color or whatever, is used on multiple models, not just your one model. And, you know, they couldn't, I don't know how they could possibly make a custom cartridge with, you know, the exact ink formula and everything for every single model out there. You know, that would be crazy, and it would cost a lot more money if they did that. Anyways, so here's some potential issues with compatibles. As described previously, the ink is specifically manufactured for the specific printer. A compatible ink is made for multiple models of printers. It may work great in one, but not in another. Compatible manufacturers can't possibly make a ton of different inks. They use the same for multiple models and multiple brands of printers. Clogged print heads are common with compatible inks because the formula of the inks varies from the manufacturer's standards. And the print heads get clogged, and sometimes so badly that they need to be replaced. You can run the print head cleaning process over and over and over, use tons of ink to clean it, but sometimes it just doesn't work, and you need to replace the actual print heads. And sometimes the print heads are not very cheap. And color accuracy may suffer, as I described. Life of the cartridge varies widely, even from cartridge to cartridge from the same manufacturer. The compatible ink that we got for our office at work, I'm not going to name it, but my specific printer, I can print, 10, 15 pages, and all of a sudden it says I'm out of magenta. And I didn't even use magenta, I was just printing black text. And so you put another ink cartridge in there, and now the light goes on that it doesn't even recognize that that's in there. So I take it out, put it back in. It takes a lot of manipulation to get the printer to accept that cartridge. And sometimes it never does. I have to go get another one. There's a little computer board on each, I don't know what you actually want to call it, on each cartridge that the printer recognizes, and if it's a little bit off, it's not a valid cartridge, so it's not going to work. Anyways, I go through that every single time on my printer, some issue related to the cartridge. The benefits of compatible cartridges. Okay, there are some benefits. They're not all cons. Money. They're significantly cheaper than the name brand cartridges. Printer manufacturers make a lot of profit on the ink cartridges, so they don't want you to use the compatibles. So a lot of times they'll scare tactics to keep you using the name brand, or some of them do that auto refill. Well, they'll automatically send you ink when the printer says it's getting low. That's to make it convenient so you don't go to the compatibles. And also, most manufacturers will void your warranty if compatibles are used. I'm not really sure how they know. Maybe by that little computer chip thing on the cartridge. Maybe it tells it that it's compatible and it keeps it in memory somehow. I don't really know. Manufacturers of compatible cartridges sometimes recycle the cartridges. They refill them, modify them. They are not typically brand new pieces and will never be exactly the same as the name brand, but they cost way less. Some people swear by them and say they never have any issues, which could be the case. You know, you could have gotten that one brand that works really great with your printer. I just haven't found that the case in the printers that we have. Should you try compatibles? It's entirely up to you. I'm just giving you information so you can make an informed decision whether you want to try it or not. In my opinion, you risk your printer hardware by using compatibles, but that's only because the experience that I have with both options. In my work environment, there are about 20 inkjet printers. Up until we started using compatible cartridges, there were never really any issues with them. They run out of ink, you put a new cartridge in, you know, go a couple months and replace it again. A few months ago, we decided to try to save some money and use the generic ink. During this, I don't know if it was 6 months, but 4 to 6 months or so, 3 of the printers have been ruined to the point where they just had to be replaced. The print heads clogged so bad that I just couldn't unclog them. There'd be blotches of ink on the paper. It was just bad. Replacements were almost as much, replacing the print head, I mean. So the print head replacement were almost as much as just buying a new printer. So we just replaced the printers. So you could see this could be a very expensive avenue to go down to save some money on some ink. I commonly get pools of ink inside the printer and it comes out on the page. The printers don't always accept the cartridge, like I was saying. The light stays on like the cartridge is out of ink or doesn't exist. And some people, you know, they only print a random page here or there, and the compatible ink seems to dry up really quick and they have to replace it often, much more often than the OEM ink. I've also heard of many people who've used the compatible ink for years and had no issues at all. So maybe it depends on what manufacturer model of printer you have or which brand of generic ink you're buying. I just wanted to share this information because, like I said, I was doing some research for my own office, you know, what was happening with us, because I think it's terrible that we have to keep buying printers just because. I find it a great coincidence that they'd all die at the same time and all have the same kind of issues with this ink. So, yeah, in my opinion, the ink cartridges are at fault, and I'm going to propose to the boss that we stop using them. But, like I said, other people don't have any problems at all. So, should you try it? I think it's up to you. If you start having any issues at all, I would clean your printer real good and go back to the name brand. But anyways, I just wanted to share this information. I thought it was pertinent to what was going on today, and since I was interested in it, I'm sure other people probably are having the same problem. So yeah, anyways, I would really love to hear your experience. If you are pro compatible or pro OEM ink, please put your comments below. I'd love to read it. And if I'm doing something wrong or if what I've said is not correct in any way, please correct me. I want to learn. So anyways, that's it for today. And I hope this was helpful. And I'll see you next time.